So over the last couple of days, the crypto market's been in a bit of a weird spot. We saw Bitcoin's price obviously fall from like 109, 110, all the way down to currently like $104,000. And a lot of you have kind of just asked me, like, Tyler, in general, how do you feel about the crypto market? And so I'm actually on my way to corner a few of my friends in some MMA fights tonight. And I was like, you know what, let me make this quick video for you. Just giving you my quick thoughts on the crypto market, where we at, if I'm concerned, all that good stuff. So let's start with the short to midterm. I'm definitely a little bit concerned about the state of the crypto market. And the reason that I say that is because there are things happening, right? Like, things are brewing. Bitcoin is stalling out at a massive resistance zone. As you all know, we talked about the fact that Bitcoin got rejected, or it failed to hold above the golden resistance zone, which is a very important level of resistance. I was very hopeful that Bitcoin would stay above it. It failed to do so. And because it failed to do so, it was like a sign that the Bitcoin bulls just didn't have the strength that they needed at the time to really gain some momentum, right? So that happened, and then a few days later, we obviously saw some conflict between Israel and Iran, and that obviously put a little bit of strain on the macro sentiment as well, with the stock market falling, NASDAQ, all that stuff. And so because of this, because of the lack of strength from the bulls, and then obviously more war-based conflict over in the Middle East, it is a little bit of a tricky market to navigate in, and it's like a perfect market for the whales to really manipulate, right? So at this exact moment, because of these things, obviously people are super concerned, people are a little bit worried, emotions are running high, and these are the sorts of moments where you'll notice that the whales will really manipulate this market as much as possible. And in these periods of high manipulation, or high manipulation zones, HMZs, shout out to Mr. Nibbles, in these high manipulation zones, you're going to see a lot of dumps. You're going to see a lot of pumps. You're going to see fake outs, breakouts, micro pumps, liquidity hunts, liquidations. I mean, you're going to see every janky move in the crypto market that it can produce in moments exactly like this. And so I would, again, definitely say in the short term, I'm much more concerned about the crypto market than I was last week, as all of these things have developed. Now, in the same breath, though, I would say that from a more macro perspective, like the grand scheme of things, I'm not actually that worried about crypto. I think I've laid out the bounce zones for you. I've told you, listen, we fell out of that support, and because we fell out of that support that we talked about, we have a couple bounce zones. We have 97 to 94K as one of the bounce zones. We have 91K-ish as a bounce zone. We have 87 to 84K as a bounce zone. And what this means is that even if Bitcoin's price, for example, does start to fall, there are very, very strong levels of support and liquidity below Bitcoin's price right now that I believe will be able to hold the Bitcoin price up and try to hold this market in stability, right? And so, although in the short term things might get ugly and they might get weird, I still do think that in the more mid to long term, we will see Bitcoin's price stabilizing and holding up well, which should allow for some stability across the markets to continue to get out of the summer and then closer to Q3 and Q4. I think as we get closer to Q3 and Q4, we're going to start to see a little bit of a better economic environment. I think we'll be getting closer to whatever form of QE that comes from that. I think we'll be getting very close to 2% inflation, which will be a very good thing in general for the economy. I think we'll see, of course, better liquidity, because liquidity in general and volume are usually much better in Q3 and Q4. And so again, it'll just help us get there. I think the rest of this summer might be a little bit crappy, might be a little bit boring, honestly. You never really know. I just think there'll be a bunch of manipulation. But I do think that it will be enough. Like, I think our liquidity below us will be enough to stabilize the market enough to just get out the summertime, right? And I may be wrong. Maybe Bitcoin just takes off either up or takes off down at some point. I just don't particularly see that happening. I just think we see a lot of range-bound movements and stuff like that right now. But overall, like, the long term, I'm not really all that concerned. I've said this before. Listen, Bitcoin has held up so well over the last few months in an environment that was not very Bitcoin friendly. I mean, January, February, March were not risk on friendly environments. They were risk off environments. January, February, March were environments in which, like, risk on assets were very dangerous to be in because no one really knew what was going to happen in the grand scheme of things. And we're getting further removed from that, right? Like, we're getting in a better spot, right? Inflation's getting to a better place. The economy's getting to a bit of a better place. We're starting to stabilize and get used to Trump's movements. We're starting to see, of course, some negotiations and stuff happening with other countries, and our international policy is becoming a little bit more clearer. And all of these things are going to be just better for the world of crypto. And so in the short term, sure, things may be a little bit ugly. They may be a little bit like, volatile and not fun, and people might take some L's, don't get me wrong, but I do again think that in the the grand scheme of things, that the market will be fine. And so I'm not particularly concerned. I did take a lot of profits off the table over the last couple months, which I'm very happy that I did, because it does put me in a position in which if the market does fall, I can capitalize on it. But at this exact moment, I'm just doing tiny little dollar cost averages. If Bitcoin goes anywhere from 103 to 100, I'll do more between 97, 94. I'll do more between 91 and 89. I'll do more at 85, right? Like, I will be willing to dollar cost average back in because I was able to pull those profits. And so that's one of the beauties about taking profits, like what we did in the month of, what month were we pumping hard? Was that May or something like that? That's the beauty about taking profits when we're like consistently pumping, because you get in a position like we're in right now where it's like, okay, option one is that the market dumps. We get to buy with we get to reinvest some of the profits that we took, compound our gains, or the market just pumps from here, and then we get to just make more profit and take more profit, right? And so it's kind of a win-win in some degree, but obviously you just have to be willing to accept that some of the wins may take a little bit longer to accomplish, right? And so with that in mind, look, I just wanted to make a video because a lot of people just seem so weird about the market. They don't know how to feel. It's like Bitcoin's over 100K, but everyone's freaked out. Some alts are doing okay, some alts are doing bad. When it comes to alts, I'm still like under the belief that we are getting closer and closer to a period in time in which alts as a whole will outperform Bitcoin. We've not seen Bitcoin dominance being able to really recover. It doesn't seem like people are hard pivoting back into Bitcoin because it doesn't seem like there's that much more of loss that alts can experience, right? It feels like alts took their beating that they were, that they were waiting for, right? Like it felt like alts were ready to get smashed after December. They took a beating for a couple months, and now it seems like that rotation back towards altcoins is I would say is a likelihood. It might be Q3, Q4, meaning that it might be the last couple months of the year, so it might take some time, but I do think we are inching our way closer and closer to that. And so I am still looking at my alts again, and I am still starting to shift and rotate some of my profits back into alts that I was pulling over the last couple months from Bitcoin. Now, I am still focusing on Bitcoin, right? I'm still paying attention to Bitcoin because we are still in Bitcoin season, but I do believe that altcoin season, right, which I don't really believe in, not the mythical version from 2021, but in a period in which altcoins are outperforming is again getting somewhat closer, at which point I would obviously be trying to capitalize with reinvestment compounding. And so with that in mind, that's kind of where we are with everything. I'm not particularly interested that much in the meme coins. There are a few that I'm kind of looking at right now just to throw a little bit of cash at them to just see what happens, right? Like maybe, just maybe, I can catch a couple memes right now, and then like 4 or 5 months from now, they really rip, kind of like we did last year. But I'm not going big. There's like 3 big ones that I'm getting into. There's like 2 tiny ones, one that's like a 18 million market cap, one that's like a 60 million market cap. There's a few micro caps I'm looking at, like I told you all about Simple AI the other day. Infineon, I don't know. There's a couple that I'm looking at in terms of microcaps, but my majority of my attention is on Bitcoin major alts because I think that's the natural cycle for the liquidity in which we're looking at right now. And so with that in mind, that's the majority of my thoughts on the market. I'll obviously be a little bit busy this weekend, but I am going to be uploading every day this week. So don't be surprised if you do see me go live as well sometime this week. So stay tuned. I'm going to be home for the majority of the summer, which is sweet. So I'll be able to pump out the content. I will tell you guys, if you don't follow me on Instagram already, I do post a lot more like extra content over on Instagram, some more behind the scenes content, what I'm doing throughout the day. You can shoot me a DM and I'll try to respond if I can. So feel free to go follow me over on Instagram if you guys do think that's interesting. And yeah, but that's my thoughts on the market. I hope you guys are having a really good weekend, and I can't wait to see you all next time. Peace out, everybody.